Hey, what up? It's Brad with Home Love Construction, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you about a topic we have never covered on this channel, right? This is exciting. Drum roll, please. It's going to be, what is the difference? What are the pros and cons between concrete block construction and steel framing construction? This is something we have never covered before. Steel framing has just popped onto the radar. I mean, steel framing obviously has existed in commercial applications for a long time, don't get me wrong, but it has just really started to come into vogue being used for residential home building. There's even some people in my area, in the Tampa Bay area, who are doing developments using steel framing, and it's going to cost them less to frame it out of steel than it would to frame it out of wood, which is a very interesting development. Now, what are the pros and cons here? So let me break these down for you. So realize that a steel framed building is going to be very similar to a wood frame building, in that instead of having the 2x4 or 2x6 wood studs that are making up the wall, you're just going to have metal instead of the wood. Now, a metal stud is not, if you take a wood stud, it's like a solid piece of wood, right? A piece of metal is simply like a U-shaped. It's like a track like that. It isn't actually a total rectangle. It's just a U. So the first thing to realize is that there's a lot of empty space in a metal frame structure. Now, that's not a bad thing. It just does need to be insulated very well. The other point on insulation that's very important to understand about a steel building is that metal, those metal studs, are a really good conductor. If you think back to science class from when you were a kid, you have conductors and you have insulators. Wood is an insulator, metal is a conductor. Now, because it's a conductor, it allows a lot of heat or cold to transfer through the metal studs. So what has to happen is there has to be some sort of insulation on the outside of the metal studs to prevent it from allowing the heat or cold to come in. I think this is something that when I look at the plans for steel, metal steel frame structures, I think this is a piece that's being missed by a lot of architects and builders, and I think it's going to wind up in big issues. I think you're going to have metal studs sweating inside of walls. I think you're literally going to get condensation. It's going to lead to some water problems. It is easily avoidable, but if you're thinking about doing a metal frame structure and it's not going to be wrapped in some sort of insulated cladding is just what you put on the outside of the building, make sure that gets done. If it doesn't, I would predict you're going to have problems if you live in Florida or somewhere where it's very cold. You're going to get sweating, which sweating is just condensation like you would get, on a glass or something like that. You don't want that inside your wall because there's nowhere for that water to go other than to eat up what's in that wall. So be very careful of that. The other thing is the normal limitations of a frame structure versus a block structure do still apply to metal frame structures. With block, you have a thicker wall and you have a lot more rigidity of the wall. By rigidity, I mean it doesn't bend at all. Metal bends, and it bends very easily. If you have ever taken a metal stud, you can twist that metal stud all the way around, no issue at all. You can't twist a block, you can't twist a piece of wood, not nearly as easily as you can twist metal. So the good thing is, metal structures are really good for things like earthquakes, or even high winds. They're gonna have a lot more sway in the building. Like the building is gonna stay intact, but it's gonna have a lot more ability to move when things are pushing on it. But the things that you put on the metal, those aren't made to move like that. So you're gonna find, I would predict, based on what I've seen of things, down the road as you build more metal structures in Florida, if there's a lot of sway allowed in those buildings in the engineered specs, you're gonna see a lot of cracking on the outside of the building. So you're just gonna need to be very smart in what type of coverings you do. If you do a lap siding where they stack, that doesn't crack. That can shift and move a little bit and it doesn't crack, it's not a big deal. But you need to be really smart in how you actually put those things together and how you're planning on it. And just frankly, from what I've seen a lot of metal buildings with, minimal cladding. They're doing stucco on the outside of them. They're doing drywall on the inside. They're doing things like bat insulation. In my opinion, these need to be sprayed insulation. There's just a lot of little things that I see that I don't think are gonna lead to great products. So if you want us to just, I've got some really good plans for designs for steel framed homes. They are a little bit more costly than a wood or concrete block home, but I do think that steel done correctly over time is going to come down in price because it can be churned out so much more quickly. You just get a roll of steel, you run it through a mill, and it becomes the studs that you need. You can do a lot more custom stuff. Basically, if you want something really uber custom, you want it to be really well done, I would love to design a steel house for you. I've seen some really good stuff, and I know somebody that I would use to design that and have it come out perfectly. If you want help with that, go to homelove.construction/design, and we can help you to design a steel framed metal house versus block or wood. Or if you don't want that and you're like, hey, I just want block or I just want wood, obviously we do a ton of those, so we can help you design those as well. So go to homelove.construction/design for help with your custom home or renovation design. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next vid. Peace.